What would you do if the person who vowed to love you kicked you in front of dozens of witnesses while you were 9 months pregnant? And what if the court system designed to protect you sided with him instead? This is the true story of Anna Mitchell, a woman who had everything: a successful career, a powerful husband, a baby on the way. But behind closed doors, she was being systematically destroyed, poisoned, controlled, isolated. And when she finally tried to escape, he kicked her so hard in a public bank that it was captured on camera by 20 phones. But here's what her abuser didn't know. Anna's father had been building a case for 6 weeks. And he wasn't just any father. He was a retired FBI agent who knew exactly how to take down a predator. What happens next is not just revenge. It's a masterclass in justice. 5 women, one viral press conference, and a billionaire's complete destruction broadcast to 50 million people. If you believe survivors deserve justice, hit that like button right now. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story of hope and courage, share it with them. Subscribe so you never miss stories that matter. Because this one, it changes everything. Now let's begin. The fluorescent lights of Denver General Hospital's emergency room cast harsh shadows across white linoleum floors. Monitors beeped in frantic rhythm as doctors in blue scrubs rushed a gurney through automatic doors. On it lay Anna Mitchell, 28 years old, 8 months pregnant, unconscious and bleeding. Charles Mitchell gripped his daughter's hand with a steadiness born from 30 years as an FBI special agent. His fingers trembled slightly despite his composure. The face that had interrogated terrorists and cornered murderers now showed only a father's anguish. "She's hemorrhaging," Dr. Elena Brooks called out, her voice sharp with urgency. "We need to deliver now or we lose them both." Charles leaned close to Anna's pale face. "Stay with me, sweetheart. You hear me? This is not how your story ends. We're taking him down. I promise you." The gurney disappeared behind surgery doors. Charles stood alone in the empty hallway, his reflection staring back from darkened windows. He had raised Anna alone after her mother died, taught her to be strong, watched her become unstoppable. Then Graham Blackwell had made her small, and now Charles would make Graham pay for every bruise, every tear, every moment of fear. The screen faded to black. White text appeared. 96 hours earlier. Charles sat in his home office as dawn light filtered through half-closed blinds. The desk before him held neat stacks of documents, bank statements highlighted in yellow, background checks marked with red flags. On the wall, a massive investigation board dominated the space. Photos covered the cork surface in careful arrangement. Anna's wedding picture from 2 years ago showed her radiant in white lace, Graham's hand tight around her waist. Recent surveillance photos Charles had taken outside her church revealed a different woman, gaunt, bruised, afraid. Bank statements traced mysterious transfers. Background checks detailed Graham's history, 2 previous marriages ending in abrupt, suspicious circumstances. Property records, corporate filings, a pattern emerging like dark clouds before a storm. This investigation had consumed 6 weeks of Charles's life. Every morning before sunrise, every evening after dark, building the case piece by piece, waiting for Graham to make a mistake. The phone rang. Detective James Harford, Charles's former FBI partner. "Mitchell," Charles answered. "Got the information you wanted on the ex-wives," Hartford said. "First wife, Jennifer Hayes. Graham paid her $2 million, made her sign an NDA, and she disappeared to Oregon. Haven't heard from her since." Charles wrote notes on a yellow pad. And the second? "Melissa Rodriguez. She's in witness protection in Arizona. Graham made credible death threats. Federal marshals relocated her 4 years ago. Can we get them to talk?" Hartford exhaled slowly. "Not without something major. They're terrified of him. Those NDAs have teeth, and Melissa knows he meant those death threats." Charles stared at Anna's wedding photo. "Then we wait. Men like Graham always make mistakes." He thought back to 6 weeks ago. Sunday dinner at his house. Anna had arrived wearing long sleeves despite August heat. She jumped when her phone buzzed, made excuses to leave early. When Charles hugged her goodbye, she winced as his hand touched her ribs. He said nothing, but he knew. That night, the investigation began. The phone rang again. Dr. Brooks this time. Mr. Mitchell, we need to talk about Anna's blood work. Privately. Charles's jaw tightened. What's wrong? Her iron levels are dangerously low despite taking prenatal vitamins daily. I'm seeing markers consistent with, I need to run a toxicology screen. I can't say more over the phone. Do it. Send me the results directly. Charles hung up and walked to the investigation board. He picked up a marker and added a new note. Poisoning? He spoke to the empty room, his voice steady and cold. I raised my daughter alone after her mother died, taught her to be strong, independent, unstoppable. Then Graham Blackwell came along and made her small. For 2 years, I watched from a distance, respecting her choices. But respect ends when I see bruises. The investigation started the day I noticed her flinch. The revenge? That was already in motion. Graham just didn't know it yet. Across the city, in a luxury penthouse overlooking downtown Denver, Anna moved through her morning routine with the careful precision of someone walking through a minefield. The kitchen gleamed with stainless steel and white marble. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Everything perfect. Everything controlled. Everything Graham's. Anna, 8 months pregnant and noticeably thin despite her swollen belly, set Graham's breakfast on the dining table with exact placement. Coffee at 2 o'clock, toast at 10, newspaper folded precisely. She took her prenatal vitamin from the bottle Graham provided, washing it down with water. Her hands shook slightly. She checked her phone, the one Graham monitored through an app he'd installed. No messages, no calls, no contact with the outside world he hadn't approved. In the bathroom, Anna applied makeup to cover a fading bruise on her cheekbone. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger. Where had the confident lawyer gone? The woman who graduated top of her class? The one who believed she could change the world? Graham Blackwell had taken that woman and replaced her with this hollow shell. Graham entered the kitchen in a tailored suit, scrolling through his phone without looking up. Did you confirm the dinner party for Saturday? He asked. Yes, 8 guests. The caterer. Not the caterer I chose. You changed it. Anna's stomach twisted. They were booked. I found another with excellent... Graham slammed his phone on the marble counter. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I don't pay you to think. I pay you to execute. You don't pay me at all. We're married. The words escaped before Anna could stop them. Silence fell like a blade. Graham crossed the kitchen slowly. Anna's hand moved instinctively to protect her belly. 8 months of life growing inside her. 8 months of fear for that life. What was that? Graham's voice dropped to ice. Nothing. I'm sorry. You're right. That baby you're carrying? My child, this penthouse, my property, that air you're breathing? Mine. You exist because I allow it. Do you understand? Tears formed in Anna's eyes. Yes. Good. Now fix the caterer situation. And Anna, wear the blue dress Saturday, the one that still fits, barely. He kissed her forehead, a gesture that would look loving to any observer, but felt like a brand of ownership. Then he left for work. Anna stood alone in the silent kitchen, shaking. She touched her belly, feeling the baby move. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered. I'm so sorry. In the bathroom behind the mirror, Anna had hidden an old cell phone, a burner she'd bought 3 months ago with cash from grocery money she'd carefully saved. She pulled it out, stared at Sarah Thompson's number. Sarah, her best friend from college, maid of honor at the wedding, the person Graham had systematically cut from Anna's life over 2 years of isolation. Anna typed, I need help. Her finger hovered over send. She deleted the message. Every day she told herself she would leave. Every day fear won. He had lawyers, money, power, connections. That psychiatric hold from 3 years ago, when she'd had a panic attack and Graham convinced doctors she was suicidal, resulting in a 72-hour involuntary commitment. He'd use it against her, prove she was unfit, take the baby. Anna put the phone away. She had nothing. She was nothing. At least that's what he'd made her believe. That afternoon, Anna sorted through mail while Graham was at the office. Between bills and corporate correspondence, she found a statement from Highstone National Bank. She'd never heard Graham mention that bank. Anna knew she shouldn't open it. Graham controlled all finances, all accounts, all decisions. But pregnancy had given her brain fog, and she could claim confusion if caught. She opened the envelope. Account balance, $3,200,000. Monthly transfers, $15,000 to V Lane. Large cash withdrawal last week, $50,000. Previous statements showed the pattern extending back 18 months. Anna's hands trembled as she photographed the documents with her burner phone. Who was V Lane? Why was Graham transferring money? What was this account for? From the garage below came the sound of Graham's car. He was home early. Panic flooded through Anna. She shoved the statement into her purse, smoothed her dress, tried to look normal. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Graham entered through the garage door. Why are you still dressed? I told you we're having dinner with investors at 7. You said Saturday. Today is Thursday. Saturday is the party. Do you listen to anything I say? Anna's mind raced. Had he said Thursday? She couldn't remember. The pregnancy made everything foggy. Or maybe he was gaslighting her again, changing details, then claiming she'd forgotten. I'm sorry, I thought. You thought. There's your problem. Get dressed. Now. Anna hurried toward the bedroom. Behind her, Graham spotted the open mail on the counter. He picked up the empty envelope. Highstone National Bank. His expression went dark. The morning sun cast pale light across Denver as Anna Mitchell stood outside Highstone National Bank. 8 months pregnant, wrapped in a long coat despite the mild October weather, she hesitated on the marble steps. This was the first decision she'd made alone in 2 years, the first act of control, the first step toward truth. Her hands shook as she pulled open the heavy glass door. Inside, the bank lobby gleamed with polished floors and warm lighting. Elderly customers waited patiently in line. Young families conducted business at desk stations. Professional staff moved between the stations with practiced efficiency. Security cameras mounted in corners captured every angle. Anna approached the counter, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The young teller looked up with a professional smile. How can I help you today? I'd like to inquire about an account under the name Graham Blackwell. I'm his wife, Anna Mitchell Blackwell. I'll need to see identification, please. Anna handed over her driver's license with trembling fingers. The teller typed into her computer, then frowned. Ma'am, I'm showing you're not listed as authorized on this account. But we're married. I just need to understand. Let me get my supervisor. The teller walked toward the back offices. Anna stood at the counter, anxiety rising. She shouldn't have come. This was a mistake. Graham would find out. He always found out. Suddenly, the bank's front doors slammed open with violent force. Every head in the lobby turned. Graham Blackwell stormed across the marble floor, his face twisted with rage. Several customers recognized him. Local tech billionaire, featured regularly in Denver Business Journal. His expensive navy suit and polished shoes clicked sharply against the floor. Anna! His voice cut through the quiet lobby like a whip. What the hell do you think you're doing? The bank went silent. 20 customers froze. Phones appeared in hands, already recording. Anna's shoulders tightened. I just had questions about. You have no right to be here. Graham crossed the lobby in rapid strides. These are my accounts, my business. We're married. I thought, you don't get to think. He towered over her 8-month pregnant body, his voice rising. You don't get to embarrass me in public. An elderly woman whispered to her husband, should someone call security? Graham ignored everyone except Anna. You want to know what's in that account? Money I'm protecting from you. Because you're unstable. You're paranoid. Something inside Anna snapped. Maybe it was the public humiliation. Maybe it was 8 months of building rage for her unborn daughter. Maybe it was simply the last straw. I'm your wife. Her voice came out stronger than she'd heard it in 2 years. I'm carrying your child. I deserve honesty. Wrong thing to them. Graham's face went crimson. Customers backed away instinctively. The bank manager started moving toward them. Security guard touched his radio. Graham stepped closer, invading her space, using his height to intimidate. You deserve what I give you. Nothing more. Graham, please. Anna's voice broke. Not here. Let's just go home and... You embarrassed me. You disrespected me. You need to learn. The bank manager approached. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you both to... It happened so fast that several witnesses would later say they couldn't believe what they saw. Graham lifted his leg and kicked Anna directly in her swollen abdomen. The impact echoed across the marble lobby like a crack of thunder. Anna screamed, her knees buckled. She crumpled to the floor, arms wrapped protectively around her belly, gasping for air as pain exploded through her entire body. The bank erupted into chaos. "Call 911. Oh my God! He kicked her! She's pregnant!" Phones captured everything from multiple angles. The security guard rushed forward but froze. Graham Blackwell was one of the richest men in Colorado. Did he intervene? Anna lay on the cold floor, tears streaming down her face, feeling wetness between her legs. Blood. Not much, but enough. Her baby. Her baby. Please, God, her baby. The baby, she whispered. Please, the baby. Graham stood over her, breathing hard, watching her suffer. For 5 seconds, he showed no remorse. His face held only rage and contempt. Then he noticed the cameras. The mask slipped into place with practiced ease. Anna, he dropped to his knees beside her, his voice suddenly concerned. Oh God, honey, are you okay? You fell? An elderly man's voice rang out sharp and angry. You kicked her! I saw it! We all saw it! Graham addressed the crowd, his face a perfect picture of distress. She's having an episode. She's been unstable. I was trying to catch her. Sir, step back. The bank manager positioned himself between Graham and Anna. An ambulance is on the way. I'm her husband. She needs me. Anna found her voice, weak but clear. Don't let him touch me. Please. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Graham's phone rang. His lawyer. He stepped away, already talking rapidly, crafting his story. In the background, his voice drifted across the lobby. She caused a scene, unstable? History of mental health issues. Anna lay on the marble floor as a stranger. An elderly woman with kind eyes knelt beside her and took her hand. Help is coming, sweetheart. You are going to be okay. My dad. Anna's voice faded. Someone please call Charles Mitchell. The paramedics arrived 7 minutes later. They loaded Anna onto a stretcher while Graham tried to follow. I'm her husband. I'm riding with her. Sir, she specifically requested you not accompany her, the lead paramedic said firmly. We have to respect her wishes. As the ambulance pulled away, the elderly woman who'd held Anna's hand pulled out her phone. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the number Anna had whispered. Charles Mitchell. Charles was reviewing financial documents when his phone rang. Unknown number. Mitchell. Are you Charles Mitchell, Anna's father? His entire body went on alert. Yes. What's wrong? There's been an incident at Highstone National Bank. Your daughter. A man kicked her. She's pregnant. The ambulance is taking her to Denver General. Charles's voice went deadly calm. Who kicked her? Her husband, Graham Blackwell. Everyone saw it. It's on camera. He kicked her like an animal. Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Charles's hand tightened around the phone until his knuckles whitened. Is she conscious? Barely. She's asking for you. I'm on my way. Charles grabbed his keys. Ma'am, I need you to do something. Send me any video you have. Every second. Can you do that? Already sent it to police. Send it to me too. He rattled off his email address. Who are you? I'm the man who's going to make sure he pays for this. Charles hung up. He stood in his office, staring at the investigation board. 6 weeks of careful work. 6 weeks of building the case. 6 weeks of waiting for Graham to make a mistake. Graham had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Charles walked to the board and stared at Graham's photo. His voice came out quiet, but it carried the weight of an oath. For 6 weeks, I built a case, gathered evidence, planned for every contingency. I was going to take you down systematically, legally, perfectly, but you just kicked my pregnant daughter in public. You made your mistake. Now the timetable changes. Now we accelerate everything. Graham Blackwell, you just started a war you cannot win. He made 3 calls. First, Detective Hartford. It's happening. Meet me at the hospital. Second, Jennifer Hayes in Oregon. Graham just assaulted his 3rd wife in public, 8 months pregnant. Are you ready to talk now? The line went silent for a long moment. Then, what do you need? Third, Melissa Rodriguez in Arizona. He's doing it again. Another pregnant woman. If you don't help me stop him, your daughter could be next. Melissa's voice shook. My daughter is pregnant now, 4 months along. If I thought he could hurt her, she paused. What do you need me to do? Testify when the time comes. I'll testify for her, for all of us. Charles grabbed his old service weapon from the safe, 30 years of FBI habit, and drove toward the hospital. Behind him, his investigation board held the roadmap to Graham's destruction. The revenge had been building for 6 weeks, but now it would accelerate beyond anything Graham could imagine. By the time Charles's car pulled out of the driveway, the bank video was already spreading across social media. 20 different angles, 50 million potential viewers, the beginning of a viral firestorm that would consume Graham Blackwell completely. Charles didn't know that yet, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. His daughter would be safe, his granddaughter would be born into freedom, and Graham Blackwell would pay for every bruise, every tear, every moment of fear he'd inflicted. The war had begun. The emergency room of Denver General Hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear. Charles Mitchell burst through the automatic doors, his FBI credentials still in his hand from when he'd flashed them to bypass the waiting area. Anna Mitchell Blackwell, he said to the nurse at the station. My daughter, pregnant, brought in from Highstone Bank. The nurse's expression softened. Room 7. Dr. Brooks is with her now. Charles found the room behind a blue curtain. Anna lay on a gurney, an ultrasound machine beside her. Dr. Elena Brooks holding a probe against Anna's swollen belly. His daughter's face was pale, tear-streaked, terrified. Anna. Daddy. The word came out as a sob. Charles crossed the room in the 2 strides and gathered her carefully into his arms. She broke down completely, her body shaking with sobs that came from somewhere deep and wounded. Dr. Brooks stepped back to give them privacy, but not before Charles saw her expression, a mixture of concern and anger. I'm getting you out, Charles said into Anna's hair. Today. Now you're never going back to him. You don't understand. Anna's voice muffled against his shoulder. He controls everything. My phone, bank accounts. He'll say I'm unstable. He had me committed once, 3 years ago. Charles pulled back to look at her. What? I had a panic attack. He told the doctors I was suicidal. They kept me for 72 hours. He uses it against me. Says if I ever leave, he'll prove I'm unfit. Charles's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Not anymore. This time he went too far. Public assault, cameras everywhere, we have him. 2 police officers appeared at the curtain. Officer Davis, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, pulled out a notepad. Mrs. Blackwell, we need your statement. Anna described the incident in a voice that grew stronger with each sentence. The kick, the threats before it, Graham's controlling behavior. The officers exchanged glances that said they believed her. We're issuing an emergency restraining order, Officer Davis said, valid for 10 days until the court hearing. Mr. Blackwell cannot contact you or come within 500 feet. We'll serve him tonight. Anna's eyes widened with something Charles hadn't seen in 2 years. Hope. Really? You were assaulted while pregnant, ma'am. Colorado takes domestic violence seriously, especially when an unborn child is endangered. For the first time since Charles arrived, Anna breathed deeply. She touched her belly, feeling the baby move. A good sign, life continuing despite trauma. We're safe now, she whispered to her daughter. Finally safe. Dr. Brooks returned after the officers left. Baby's heartbeat is strong, but you're experiencing significant stress to the placenta. You need complete bed rest for at least 1 week. Can you stay with your father? Yes, Anna's voice was firm. Brooks pulled Charles aside privately, lowering her voice. I west additional blood work earlier this week based on concerning patterns. Her iron is critically low, despite daily prenatal vitamins. I'm testing for toxins. Results will be ready in 48 hours. Charles understood immediately. His 6 weeks of investigation had pointed toward this possibility. Send the results directly to me. Mr. Mitchell, if what I suspect is true, Dr. Brooks hesitated. This goes beyond assault. This is attempted murder. I know. And we're going to prove it. Charles's house sat in a quiet Denver suburb, a modest ranch-style home where he'd raised Anna alone after her mother died of cancer when Anna was 12. The guest room still held her high school swimming trophies and debate team certificates, remnants of the strong, confident girl she'd been before Graham. Anna slept peacefully for the first time in months. Charles stood in the doorway, watching her breathe steadily, one hand resting on her belly even in sleep, protecting her daughter. The doorbell rang softly. Sarah Thompson stood on the porch, her eyes red. "Charles?" They embraced briefly. "I came as soon as you called." In the kitchen, Charles poured coffee while Sarah struggled to compose herself. 2 years, she said. 2 years he wouldn't let me near you. Every time I called, he answered. Every time I texted, he replied. Every invitation I sent, he declined on her behalf. I should have pushed harder. "He's an expert at isolation," Charles said. "Don't blame yourself. But Sarah, I need your help now. You're a divorce attorney. Anna needs the best. I've already drafted the papers, full custody for Anna, using today's assault as grounds plus a pattern of abuse. She just needs to sign when she's rested." "There's more." Charles showed Sarah his investigation files. "I've been building this case for 6 weeks, found 2 ex-wives." Sarah's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. "2? Jennifer Hayes. Graham paid her $2 million to disappear and sign an NDA. Melissa Rodriguez is in federal witness protection because he threatened to kill her." Jesus Christ, can they testify? "I called them both after the bank incident. They're ready. They saw the news, saw another pregnant woman. They'll come forward." Sarah stood and paced the small kitchen. "If we can establish a pattern across 3 marriages, Graham's lawyers can't claim this was an isolated incident or Anna's instability." Charles's phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Brooks. "Preliminary tox screen positive, ortho. Arsenic, small doses over extended period. Full results tomorrow." He showed Sarah the message. Her face went pale. He was poisoning her? Trying to cause a miscarriage without evidence, slow enough that it looked like pregnancy complications. But he got impatient. That's why he kicked her today. Sarah sat down heavily. "This isn't assault. This is attempted murder of both Anna and the baby. That's exactly what we're going to prove." They talked for another hour, building strategy. "File divorce papers immediately. Request emergency custody hearing. Gather testimony from the ex-wives. Use Dr. Brooks's medical evidence. Release the bank video to media if necessary." By the time Sarah left, they had a plan, a good plan, a plan that would protect Anna and her baby, but neither of them knew what Graham was planning in response. Across town, in the executive office of Blackwell Corporation's gleaming headquarters, Graham sat behind his desk with 3 lawyers in expensive suits. The lead attorney, Richard Morrison, set down his tablet with a heavy sigh. "The video is bad, Graham. You're clearly kicking her." "So we spin it." Graham's voice held no remorse. "She's unstable. History of mental health issues. I was defending myself." The second lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, raised her eyebrows. "From a pregnant woman half your size?" "She attacked me first. The cameras just didn't catch it." The third lawyer, Michael Torres, leaned forward. "Mr. Blackwell, we need to be realistic. The restraining order will stand. We should focus on the custody battle." "I want full custody." Graham's tone made it clear this wasn't negotiable. "She's unfit." "Based on what?" Morrison asked. "Her psychiatric hold 3 years ago. The hospital records showing suicidal ideation. Her erratic behavior documented over months. I have everything we need." "What documentation?" Graham smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Home security footage, edited properly. It shows a very unstable woman having breakdowns, throwing objects, screaming. The cameras don't show what I said to trigger those reactions. They just show her looking crazy." The 3 lawyers exchanged uncomfortable glances. This wasn't legal strategy. This was manipulation bordering on fraud. "Mr. Blackwell," Morrison said carefully, "manufacturing evidence could backfire severely. I'm not manufacturing anything. I'm simply presenting footage from my home security system. What's captured is captured. If context is missing, well, that's unfortunate." Later that night, Graham reviewed the footage with a private tech specialist who asked no questions and charged premium rates for discretion. The man pointed at the screen. I can strip your audio from all these clips, make it look like she's having one-sided outbursts. The footage showed Anna crying alone, but with Graham's threatening voice removed. Anna throwing a vase, but without the part where Graham grabbed her arm first. Anna screaming, but not the assault that preceded it. Perfect, Graham said. This is my insurance policy. Now what about the bank video? Public building, multiple cameras, dozens of witnesses. We can't touch it without risking federal charges for evidence tampering. Then we destroy her credibility instead. Make everyone question what they saw. How? Graham pulled out his phone. Watch me. Within 3 hours, Graham's PR team had launched a coordinated social media campaign. His Instagram post showed him looking devastated, professionally lit and photographed. Today, my wife experienced a mental health crisis in public. As someone who has supported her through years of struggle, my heart breaks for her. I ask for privacy as we seek professional help. Hashtag mental health matters. Hashtag stand by your wife. The comments flooded in immediately. What really happened? The video clearly shows you kicking her. This is gaslighting. But also, mental health is so important. We don't know the full story. Maybe she was aggressive first? Conservative blogs, paid by Graham's team, published articles questioning Anna's stability. Cable news split down political lines. Liberal outlets condemned the assault, while conservative commentators questioned whether the full story was being told. By midnight, public opinion was divided, exactly as Graham intended. He poured himself expensive scotch and stood at his penthouse windows, looking over Denver's lights. Anna thought she could leave him. She thought her father and some lawyers could save her. She had no idea who she was fighting. Graham had money, power, connections, lawyers who could make reality bend. Anna had nothing, or so he thought. 3 in the morning. Anna woke in her childhood bedroom to the sound of breaking glass downstairs. For one confused moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she heard footsteps. Heavy, male, familiar. Anna, I know you're here. Graham's voice drifted up the stairs like poison smoke. Anna sat up in bed, one hand instinctively protecting her belly. Her baby kicked, as if sensing the danger. Fear paralyzed her completely. The same fear that had controlled her for 2 years. Charles appeared in her doorway, his old service weapon drawn, held low and ready, 30 years of FBI training evident in his stance. Graham, Charles's voice was calm, controlled. You have a restraining order. Leave now. Graham appeared at the top of the stairs, his expensive suit rumpled, his hair disheveled. He looked unhinged, a mask finally slipping. That's my wife, my baby. You poisoned her against me, old man. She came to me bleeding because you kicked her. An accident, a moment of poor judgment. But this? Graham gestured around the house. Parental alienation, kidnapping. I have lawyers who will bury you in litigation. You're violating a restraining order right now. Graham pulled out his phone, already recording, and I'm documenting you threatening me with a weapon. Former FBI agent threatens innocent husband trying to reconcile with his mentally ill wife. How will that look on the evening news? Anna appeared in her bedroom doorway. Graham, please, just leave. Graham's expression shifted when he saw her. The anger melted into calculated sympathy, pure manipulation. Baby, I'm so sorry. I lost control at the bank. But we can fix this. Come home. We'll get counseling, together, for our daughter. No. One word, but it held more strength than Anna had felt in months. Graham's mask cracked. No? You think you can tell me no? Charles stepped between them. She just did. Leave now or I call the police. Graham laughed, high and slightly manic. Call them. I posted $50,000 bail this afternoon. Cops can't touch me. And Anna? He looked past Charles directly at his wife. You let me in. You spoke to me. Didn't immediately report the contact. That restraining order? It's as good as gone. He turned and walked down the stairs. They heard the front door close. Car engine starting. Taillights disappearing down the street. Charles lowered his weapon. Did you let him in? He had a key. His old key to the guest house. He broke the window but then used the key. I didn't invite him. I swear. I didn't. But Charles's expression told Anna what she already feared. Graham's lawyers would spin it differently. She'd engaged in conversation, hadn't called police immediately, voluntarily interacted with him while the restraining order was active. His lawyers will say you did, Charles said quietly. Anna sank to the floor in her doorway, hands covering her face. One violation of contact, one moment of fear-induced hesitation, and Graham had turned it into ammunition. 10 days later, family court, Judge Margaret Cooper presiding. The courtroom was small, windowless, painted institutional beige. Anna sat beside Sarah Thompson at the defendant's table. Across the aisle, Graham and his three-lawyer team projected confidence. The hearing would determine whether the emergency restraining order would be extended. Anna needed it extended. Graham needed it dismissed. Judge Cooper, a woman in her late 50s with steel gray hair and sharp eyes, reviewed the case file with careful attention. Her sister had died from domestic violence 20 years ago. The attorneys didn't know that, but she brought that knowledge to every case. Graham's lead attorney presented his case first. Your Honor, this is a tragedy of mental illness, not abuse. Mrs. Blackwell has a documented psychiatric history. He submitted hospital records from 3 years ago. She was involuntarily committed for 72 hours following suicidal ideation. She's been on anti-anxiety medication. And according to these home security recordings, she's exhibited increasingly erratic behavior. The attorney played edited footage, Anna crying alone, throwing objects, screaming. Without context, it looked like instability, madness. Anna felt herself shrinking in her chair. Then Graham took the stand. He'd been coached well. His voice held exactly the right notes of regret and concern. I love my wife, Your Honor. She's carrying my child. Yes, I made a terrible mistake at that bank. I was overwhelmed, stressed about her mental state, and I reacted badly. But Anna has struggled for years. I've paid for therapy, managed her medications, supported her through episodes, and now her father has isolated her, convinced her I'm some kind of monster. All I want is for us to get professional help together. It was a masterful performance. Several people in the gallery nodded sympathetically. Then came Anna's turn. Sarah presented the bank video, witness statements, Dr. Brooks's medical documentation of injuries. Anna testified about the abuse, the control, the isolation, the fear. But Graham's attorney destroyed her in cross-examination. Mrs. Blackwell, you were institutionalized 3 years ago, correct? I had a panic attack. He pressured me into, yes or no, please. Were you institutionalized? Anna's voice came out small. Yes. And you've been prescribed anti-anxiety medication, correct? He controlled when I took it. He would, yeah or no? Yes. And isn't it true you allowed Mr. Blackwell into your father's home 3 nights ago, despite the restraining order? He broke in with a key, but you spoke with him, had a conversation, didn't immediately call the police, correct? Anna felt tears burning. He manipulated, correct? Yes. A whisper. Judge Cooper reviewed the evidence with a long, heavy silence. Anna could see sympathy in her eyes, but sympathy wasn't enough. Law required proof. This court acknowledges that Mr. Blackwell's actions at the bank were reprehensible and concerning. However, Colorado law requires clear evidence of ongoing danger to extend a restraining order. Mrs. Blackwell voluntarily engaged with Mr. Blackwell after the protective order was issued, which undermines her claim of fear. The psychiatric history, while not disqualifying, raises questions about perception of events. While I find Mr. Blackwell's behavior deeply troubling, I cannot extend the restraining order without clearer evidence of a pattern of abuse. Motion denied. The gavel struck. Anna's world shattered. Sarah caught her as she nearly collapsed. The courtroom spun. How was this possible? Video evidence, medical records, witnesses, none of it enough. Graham walked past, his lawyer surrounding him. He leaned close enough for only Anna to hear. Told you, he whispered. You can't win. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Graham gave a carefully prepared statement. I'm relieved my wife and I can work on our marriage. Mental health struggles are real, but love is stronger. We'll get through this together. Cameras captured everything as Anna was led away by Charles and Sarah, trying to shield her face from photographers. Graham's attorney appeared with additional papers. Custody filing. Mr. Blackwell is seeking full custody upon the child's birth, citing the mother's documented mental instability and inability to provide safe care. Hearing scheduled in 30 days. Sarah's face went white. She hasn't even given birth yet. Preventative measure counselor, best interest of the child. That night in Charles's guest room, Anna lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Dr. Brooks had examined her after court. The stress was affecting the baby. Heart rate elevated. Anna's blood pressure is dangerous. If you don't stabilize emotionally, Dr. Brooks had warned, we may need to deliver early. Charles and Sarah talked quietly in the kitchen. Anna could hear their voices through the thin walls. We're losing her, Charles said. The ex-wives, Jennifer and Melissa. Are they still willing to testify? They're scared, NDAs, threats, trauma, but I'm working on them. Work harder. If they don't come forward, Graham wins. He takes that baby, and Anna... Sarah's voice broke. We might lose her completely. Anna touched her belly, feeling her daughter move. 9 months now, full term. The baby could come any day. I'm sorry, Anna whispered to her unborn child. I tried to protect you. I tried to be strong, but he's going to take you, and I don't know how to stop him. For the first time since the bank incident, Anna considered that Graham might actually win, that the system designed to protect victims might fail her, that her daughter might grow up thinking her mother abandoned her when actually her mother had been deemed too unstable to keep her. The thought was unbearable. In the medicine cabinet, Anna knew there were pills, enough pills. She stared at the ceiling and wondered if her daughter would be better off without a mother at all than with a mother who couldn't protect her. The dark thoughts circled like vultures until her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. This is Victoria Lane, Graham's girlfriend. We need to talk. Anna stared at the text message, her finger hovering over the delete button. Victoria Lane, the woman receiving $15,000 per month from Graham's secret account. His mistress. Why would she reach out? Another text arrived. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I have bruises too. And recordings. Please. Anna's hands shook. This could be a trap. Graham was capable of anything. But something in those words, I have bruises too, rang with painful authenticity. She typed, why would you help me? The response came immediately. Because I'm 6 weeks pregnant, and I just found out what he did to his first wife when she was pregnant. I'm not going to end up like her. Or you. Anna's breath caught. Victoria was pregnant with Graham's child, another woman trapped in his web. They agreed to meet at a small coffee shop on the edge of Denver, far from anywhere Graham might look. Anna wore sunglasses despite the overcast day. Victoria arrived in a hooded jacket, her normally perfect influencer appearance hidden. In person, Victoria looked younger than her 26 years, beautiful in that effortless womb that came from good genes and professional maintenance. But her eyes held something Anna recognized immediately: fear. Victoria ordered tea with trembling hands. When she reached for sugar, her sleeve pulled back, revealing a bracelet of purple bruises around her wrist. Finger marks. Recent. He promised to leave you, Victoria said quietly. Marry me. Make me the next Mrs. Blackwell. Then last week I told him about the baby. He hit me for the first time. Said if I ever told anyone, he'd destroy my career, my family, my life. She looked up. Sound familiar? Why are you really here? Victoria pulled a USB drive from her purse. I've been recording everything for months. For insurance, I thought. Proof in case he tried to deny our relationship. But it's not just insurance anymore. It's evidence. Conversations where he brags about controlling you, mocking you to his friends, planning to take your baby. All of it. I'll give it to you. All of it. On one condition. What? Protect me. When this goes public, he'll come after me hard. I need witness protection or something. Can your dad do that? Anna thought of Charles's FBI connections. Detective Hartford. Other agents still in service. Yes, he can protect you. Victoria handed over the USB drive. I was stupid. I thought I was different. Special. That he loved me, but I'm just the next Anna. And after me, there'll be another. Unless we stop him. Why didn't you leave? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Same reason you didn't. Fear. But I'm 6 weeks pregnant, and I just watched him kick you on video. If I stay, that'll be me in 8 months. So I'm done being scared." She paused. "Are you?" Anna looked at the USB drive in her palm. Evidence, real evidence. Not edited footage or manipulated records, but Graham's own words condemning him. "Yes," she said, "I'm done." 1 week later, Anna stood in front of her bathroom mirror in her father's house. 9 months pregnant. Full term. The baby could arrive any moment. Her phone buzzed. Graham's number. A text. "You will attend the investor party tonight at 7. Wear the blue dress. Be there or face consequences in custody court." Anna's hands shook. She had hoped the court defeat meant she'd never have to see him again until the custody hearing. But Graham's lawyers had argued she was still legally his wife, still living in the marital home legally. The judge had somehow agreed, ordering her to return for marital counseling attempts. Sarah had fought it, but lost. Now Anna stood in Graham's penthouse once again, surrounded by 30 wealthy investors, forced to play the dutiful wife while 9 months pregnant. Graham had briefed her before guests arrived. "Smile, play perfect. If you embarrass me, you'll regret it in court." The party proceeded like a nightmare. Anna served hors d'oeuvres while her ankles swelled, smiled while her back ached, made small talk while dying inside. Victoria was there too, introduced as a business associate. The cruelty of it, making both his pregnant wife and pregnant mistress serve his ego. Anna escaped to the bathroom, locked the door, and broke down. She opened the medicine cabinet, saw the pills, thought about how easy it would be to just stop. Stop fighting. Stop hurting. Stop being scared. Her daughter kicked hard, as if protesting. "I'm sorry," Anna whispered to her belly. "I can't protect you. I tried so hard. But he's going to win. He's going to take you, and I'm so sorry." A knock. "Anna, it's Victoria." Anna opened the door. Victoria slipped inside, closed it behind her. "Don't," Victoria said, "whatever you're thinking. Don't. He's going to take my baby. The court, the lawyers, everything is against me." "Not everything. Your father is building something. The ex-wives agreed to talk. I heard him on the phone freaking out about it. Dr. Brooks has the poisoning evidence. I gave you the recordings. We're building a cage around him. But we need you to survive. Can you do that?" "I don't know." Victoria touched Anna's belly gently. "Then do it for her. She needs you, not him. You. Can you survive for her?" Anna felt tears streaming. "Yes, for her." They returned to the party together. Anna moved through the crowd like a ghost, serving drinks, accepting condescending compliments about her pregnancy, dying internally. Then she overheard it. Graham in the living room talking to David Morrison, his business partner. They didn't know she was behind the bookshelf. "Once the baby's born, I'm filing for full custody," Graham said. "My lawyer says her psych history guarantees I win." "What about Anna?" David asked. Graham laughed. Actually laughed. "Anna will be committed. I've already laid the groundwork with those home videos. Once she's institutionalized, I get the baby, access to her inheritance from her mother, everything. She'll be locked up before she knows what hit her." "Jesus, Graham, that's cold even for you." "It's not cold, it's chess, and I'm 3 moves from checkmate." Anna's hand moved to her pocket. The burner phone. She was recording every word, every confession, every piece of his plan laid bare. This was it, the smoking gun. When the party finally ended and guests departed, Anna claimed exhaustion and went to sleep in the guest room. Graham didn't argue. He was busy celebrating with Victoria. Anna texted her father. "Got it. Recording of everything. Get me out tomorrow." Charles's response was immediate. "Already outside, waiting, come now." Anna grabbed the small bag she'd packed secretly, walked down the hallway past the master bedroom where she heard Graham and Victoria talking, past the kitchen where she'd spent 2 years walking on eggshells, past the living room where he'd threatened her 1,000 times, out the door, into freedom. Charles's car waited at the curb. Anna got in. They drove away without looking back. "The ex-wives?" Anna asked. "Jennifer and Melissa are flying in tomorrow. They're ready to testify." "Dr. Brooks has the full toxicology report, enough arsenic to prove attempted murder." "Victoria?" In protective custody as of 2 hours ago, Detective Hartford arranged it personally. Anna touched the USB drive and phone in her pocket. Evidence, testimony, proof, everything they needed. What now? She asked. Charles looked at his daughter, really looked at her. He saw the woman she used to be emerging from the shell Graham had created, saw strength returning, saw fire in her eyes instead of fear. Now, Charles said, we go to war on our terms. Graham thinks he's 3 moves from checkmate. He has no idea we just flipped the entire board. Charles Mitchell's house transformed into a war room. The dining table disappeared under stacks of evidence, photographs, legal documents, and testimony transcripts. 7 people gathered around it like generals planning a siege. Charles stood at the head of the table. Beside him, Detective James Hartford, still carrying the authority of 30 years in law enforcement. Sarah Thompson reviewed legal precedents on her laptop. Dr. Elena Brooks organized medical files. And 3 women who'd survived Graham Blackwell, Jennifer Hayes, Melissa Rodriguez, and Victoria Lane. Anna sat slightly apart, one hand on her 9-month belly, watching these women who'd suffered like her. Jennifer, 36, had dark circles under her eyes that no amount of sleep could erase. Melissa, 34, kept checking the windows like Graham might materialize from thin air. Victoria, 26, looked like she'd aged a decade in 1 week. This is everything we have, Charles said, gesturing to the evidence spread before them. The bank assault video, Victoria's recordings of Graham threatening Anna, Anna's recording of him admitting his plan to institutionalize her, Brooks's toxicology report showing systematic poisoning, Jennifer's testimony about forced abortion, Melissa's witness protection documents, financial records showing fraud and embezzlement. We could arrest him tonight, Detective Hartford said. We have probable cause. No, Anna's voice surprised everyone, including herself. They all turned to look at her. If we arrest him now, his lawyers bail him out within hours. He spins it in the media. We need to destroy him so completely he can't recover. Ever. Sarah leaned forward. What are you thinking? He's holding a press conference tomorrow. Big announcement about some charity for women's health. The irony was bitter. Media will be there, cameras, reporters. What if we crash it? Release everything at once? Let the world see exactly who he is. That's risky, Sarah warned. Could backfire. His lawyers could claim we orchestrated a public humiliation campaign. Anna met her friend's eyes. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of him controlling the narrative. I want him destroyed, publicly, completely. So every woman who comes after us knows exactly who Graham Blackwell really is. Jennifer spoke for the first time, her voice hoarse. I'm in. For the baby I lost. The daughter I was forced to abort at 5 months because he beat me unconscious. Melissa nodded. For every woman after us. For my daughter who's pregnant now. I'm in. Victoria touched her still flat belly. For the baby I'm carrying. I'm in. Charles looked at his daughter with something like pride. The broken woman from 2 weeks ago had disappeared. In her place sat someone harder, stronger, ready to fight. Then we do this your way, he said. They worked through the night, coordinating every detail. Sarah prepared the legal documentation. Detective Hartford arranged police presence. Dr. Brooks organized her medical testimony. The 3 women rehearsed their statements, supporting each other through tears and rage. Anna sat in the center of it all, feeling her daughter move inside her, knowing this battle was for both of them. Tomorrow, Graham Blackwell would announce his charitable foundation for pregnant women. Tomorrow, 5 women would show the world what he really did to pregnant women. Tomorrow, everything would change. Blackwell Corporation headquarters gleamed in morning sunlight. The press room on the 20th floor had been prepared meticulously. Podium centered, company logo behind it, 50 chairs arranged in perfect rows for media. Graham Blackwell stood at the podium in a tailored suit, smiling for cameras. 50 reporters filled the seats. Every major Denver outlet represented. Some national news. His PR team had promised this would rehabilitate his image after the unfortunate bank incident. Good morning, Graham began, his voice warm and practiced. Today I'm proud to announce the Blackwell Foundation for Women's Health, a $10 million initiative to support pregnant women in crisis. The doors opened. Graham stopped mid-sentence. Anna walked in, 9 months pregnant, her belly announcing her condition to the room, flanked by Charles, Sarah, Jennifer, Melissa, and Victoria. Silence fell like a curtain. Cameras swiveled from Graham to the women. Reporters recognized Anna immediately, the wife from the viral bank video. But who were the others? Anna. Graham's composure slipped for half a second before the mask returned. This is a private... No. Anna's voice carried across the room, stronger than Graham had ever heard it. This is public, and these people deserve the truth. You're having another episode at Security Picajo. Anna walked to the front of the room, photographers capturing every step. My name is Anna Mitchell Blackwell. I'm 9 months pregnant with this man's child, and he's been poisoning me for months. Gasps rippled through the press corps. A reporter from the Denver Post stood. Can you prove that? Our Brooks stepped forward, holding official documents. I'm Dr. Elena Brooks, Mrs. Blackwell's obstetrician. These toxicology reports show systematic arsenic poisoning over approximately 4 months. The source was prenatal vitamins provided exclusively by Mr. Blackwell. The dosage was calculated to cause miscarriage without leaving obvious evidence. Cameras clicked frantically. Reporters shouted questions. Graham's face went red. That's absurd. She's mentally ill. Everyone knows her psychiatric history. Victoria stepped forward, pulling out a small speaker. I'm Victoria Lane, Graham Blackwell's mistress. I'm 6 weeks pregnant with his child, and he's been abusing me too. This is him, recorded 2 weeks ago. She pressed play. Graham's voice filled the room, crystal clear. Victoria, you're just like Anna, a placeholder. Once you give me what I need, you're disposable. The baby is mine. You're nothing. Victoria's voice. What if I leave? Graham's voice. Try it. I'll destroy you like I'm destroying Anna. No one leaves me. Ever. The room erupted. Reporters stood shouting questions over each other. Graham's carefully constructed image crumbling in real time. Jennifer stepped forward next. I'm Jennifer Hayes, Graham's first wife. 5 years ago, he beat me unconscious when I was 5 months pregnant. He forced me to abort our daughter. Then he paid me $2 million to disappear and sign an NDA promising never to speak about what he did to me or our child. She held up the NDA, then tore it in half. I'm breaking that agreement today because I just found out he's doing it again. And I won't be silent while another woman suffers what I suffered. Melissa was next. I'm Melissa Rodriguez, Graham's second wife. 4 years ago, he threatened to kill me. The FBI took those threats seriously enough to put me in witness protection. I've been hiding from him for 4 years, but I'm done hiding. My daughter is pregnant now. If I don't stop him, he'll do this to another generation. One by one, they testified, not in a courtroom, but in front of 50 cameras broadcasting to millions. Graham stood frozen, his lawyers frantically typing on phones, trying to mount a response. But what could they say? The evidence was overwhelming, the testimony devastating. Anna stepped to the microphone last. She pulled out her phone. This is Graham Blackwell, recorded 1 week ago at a party in his penthouse. She pressed play. Graham's voice, arrogant and cold. Millionaire. Once the baby's born, I'm filing for full custody. My lawyer says Anna's psych history guarantees I win. Then Anna gets committed. I've already laid the groundwork with those home videos. Once she's institutionalized, I get the baby, her inheritance, everything. She'll be locked up before she knows what hit her. It's not cold, it's chess, and I'm 3 moves from checkmate. The room went absolutely silent. Every camera focused on Graham. His face cycled through emotions, shock, rage, panic, before settling on something ugly and desperate. They're lying, he shouted. All of them. This is a conspiracy, character assassination. They want my money. Anna met his eyes across the room. Checkmate. Detective Hartford stepped forward with 2 uniformed officers. Graham Blackwell, you're under arrest for assault with intent to harm an unborn child, attempted murder through poisoning, fraud, embezzlement, witness tampering, in violation of protective order. You have the right to remain silent. Cameras captured everything as handcuffs clicked around Graham's wrists. His lawyers shouted protests. Graham himself struggled, screaming, "You can't do this to me! I'm Graham Blackwell. I built this company. I own this city." Anna stepped close enough for only him to hear her final words. "You're nothing, and now everyone knows it." As police led Graham away, still screaming denials, the press room erupted into chaos. Reporters rushed the five women with questions. Cameras broadcast live to every major network. Within minutes, the footage went viral. Within hours, hashtag Justice for Anna trended #1 worldwide. Within 24 hours, 50 million people had watched Graham Blackwell's complete destruction. The media explosion happened faster than anyone anticipated. Within 3 hours of the press conference, the video had been viewed 20 million times. By evening, 50 million. By midnight, it had become the most watched news event of the year. Good Morning America called Anna directly, offering an exclusive interview with all five women. The View dedicated their entire next episode to domestic violence, featuring clips from the press conference. Ellen DeGeneres tweeted her support. Reese Witherspoon shared the story. Michelle Obama's foundation released a statement calling for stronger domestic violence protections, but it was the older women, the demographic Graham had never considered, who drove the viral firestorm. Church groups across America shared the video in prayer circles. Women's clubs in suburban neighborhoods organized viewing parties. Retired teachers, nurses, mothers, and grandmothers flooded social media with outrage and support. These were women who remembered when domestic violence wasn't discussed, when women had no options, when abusers faced no consequences. They'd fought for decades to change those systems. And watching Graham Blackwell attempt to manipulate those systems triggered something primal. The Blackwell Corporation's stock crashed 89% in one trading day. Board members resigned, investors fled, partners terminated contracts. The company that Graham had built over 15 years began crumbling within hours. An emergency board meeting convened that night. David Morrison, Graham's business partner, stood before 11 board members. "We have no choice," he said flatly. "Graham is done. The question is whether we go down with him." The vote was unanimous. Graham Blackwell was removed from all positions. His access to company accounts, systems, and properties terminated immediately. Security changed locks on his office. I deleted his credentials. The company announced it would rebrand, distance itself completely, and cooperate fully with all investigations. Meanwhile, prosecutors piled on charges: the assault from the bank, attempted murder from the poisoning, fraud from embezzling $12 million in company funds, witness tampering, stalking, multiple violations of protective orders. Bail was denied. Flight risk, danger to community, multiple victims. Graham Blackwell would await trial in county jail. Anna stood in her father's living room, watching news coverage with a strange sense of disconnection. Was this really happening? Had they actually won? Her phone rang constantly. Interview requests, publishers wanting book deals, podcasters offering platforms. She ignored them all except one. The National Domestic Violence Hotline called personally. "Mrs. Mitchell, we've received 17,000 calls in the last 6 hours, all because of your courage. Women who saw themselves in your story. Women ready to leave their abusers. Women who needed to see someone fight back and win." Anna sat heavily, one hand on her belly. 17,000 women, 17,000 lives potentially saved because she'd found the strength to speak. "We'd like you to be a spokesperson," the caller continued. "If you're willing, when you're ready, no pressure. But your voice could save thousands more." Anna thought about the woman she'd been 3 weeks ago, broken, terrified, contemplating suicide in a bathroom while her abuser laughed in the next room. "I'll do it," she said. "After the baby comes. After the trial, I'll do it." 72 hours after Graham's arrest, Anna's water broke. It happened at 2 in the morning. Charles drove her to Denver General while Sarah called ahead. Dr. Brooks met them at the emergency entrance. "Right on time," Dr. Brooks smiled. "Let's meet this little fighter." Labor lasted 6 hours. Anna had never known pain like this, but it was different from the pain Graham caused. This pain had purpose. This pain created life. Charles held her hand through contractions. Sarah wiped her forehead with cool cloths. Jennifer, Melissa, and Victoria waited in the family room. 3 women who understood exactly what this moment meant. At 8:37 in the morning, Hope Margaret Mitchell entered the world. She cried immediately, strong, healthy, Perfect. Dr. Brooks placed her on Anna's chest. She's beautiful. 10 fingers, 10 toes, absolutely perfect. Anna sobbed, holding her daughter, feeling the weight of this tiny human she'd protected through hell. Hi, baby. Hi, I'm your mama. You're safe. You're so safe. Charles stood beside the bed, tears streaming down his weathered face. She's perfect, sweetheart. You did it. Anna looked at her father, then at her daughter. Her name is Hope, Hope Margaret Mitchell, because she gave me hope when I had none. Hope opened her eyes, bright and curious, and seemed to look directly at her mother. In that moment, Anna understood something fundamental. She hadn't survived for herself. She'd survived for this, for Hope, for every moment that would come, for every milestone, every laugh, every scraped knee, every graduation, every achievement. Graham Blackwell had tried to destroy them both. Instead, he'd created something unbreakable. 6 weeks later, Graham's trial began. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. The bank video played for the jury, Graham kicking his 9-month pregnant wife in full view of cameras and witnesses. Medical testimony about the poisoning. Financial records showing embezzlement. Testimony from 5 women establishing a pattern spanning a decade. Graham's defense team tried everything. They claimed Anna was mentally unstable, that the other women coordinated lies, that the recordings were taken out of context. The jury didn't buy it. Anna testified on day 4. She wore a simple black dress and held her composure with quiet strength. The prosecutor asked, Mrs. Mitchell, can you identify the man who poisoned you, assaulted you, and threatened to institutionalize you to steal your child? Anna pointed at Graham. Graham Blackwell. Are you afraid of him? Not anymore. Graham's attorney cross-examined, trying to rattle her. Isn't it true you loved him once? I loved who I thought he was. I was in love with a lie. Do you hate him now? Anna paused, considering. No, I pity him, because I'm free and he never will be. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes, guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Cooper presided, and this time no one could question her authority or decisions. She looked at Graham with complete contempt. Mr. Blackwell, you used your wealth, power, and influence to systematically destroy women who trusted you. You targeted them at their most vulnerable during pregnancy. You showed no remorse, no humanity, no recognition of the pain you caused. This court sentences you to 18 years in state prison with no possibility of early release. You will be registered as a violent offender. You will have 0 contact with any of your victims or their children. Take him away. As guards led Graham out, he passed Anna holding baby Hope in the gallery. He stopped, staring at the child that should have been his. That baby should have been mine. Anna met his eyes with complete calm. She was never yours. She's mine. And unlike you, she'll grow up knowing what love actually means. It was the last time Anna saw Graham Blackwell. Autumn sunlight filtered through the windows of Anna's modest apartment in a quiet Denver neighborhood. Photos of Hope covered every wall. First smile, first laugh, first time sitting up. The space was small but warm, filled with the comfortable chaos of single motherhood. Anna, looking looking healthier than she had in years, fed 13-month-old Hope breakfast. The toddler babbled happily, smashing banana pieces with determined fists. That's right, baby girl. Make a mess. Mama doesn't mind. Hope laughed, a sound that still made Anna's heart overflow. The doorbell rang. Sarah stood on the doorstep with 2 coffees and a familiar grin. Ready for today? Sarah asked. As ready as I'll ever be. Today was Anna's first day of her final semester at law school. She'd re-enrolled 6 months ago, determined to finish the degree she'd abandoned for Graham. The degree that would let her help other women escape what she'd survived. At the university, Anna settled into a lecture hall filled with students 10 years younger. But age didn't matter. She took notes, participated in discussions, found herself loving the intellectual challenge she'd almost forgotten existed. After class, her professor stopped her. Mitchell, your paper on domestic violence law and systemic failures was exceptional. Have you considered publishing it? Thank you. I drew from personal experience. I know, that's what made it powerful. Outside, Charles waited with Hope in her stroller. The little girl reached for her mother with delighted squeals. How was it? Charles asked. Perfect. I forgot how much I love this. Your mother would be so proud. Anna knelt beside the stroller, touching her daughter's soft hair. I'm proud of me too. Finally. That evening, Anna stood before 20 women in a domestic violence shelter. Some bore visible bruises. Others wore the invisible scars Anna recognized immediately. Hope sat on her hip, playing with Anna's necklace. A year ago, Anna began, I was on a bathroom floor considering ending my life. I'd been kicked in public, poisoned for months, gaslit into questioning my own sanity, and told I'd lose my baby to a man who wanted to destroy me. I thought he'd won. I thought I was too weak, too scared, too broken to fight back. The women listened with the intensity of people hearing their own story told aloud. But here's what I learned. You're not broken, you're breaking free. And breaking free doesn't look like one dramatic moment. It looks like surviving one more day, making one phone call, telling one person the truth, recording one conversation, taking back one tiny piece of yourself at a time. A woman in the back raised her hand. What if I'm not strong enough? Anna walked to her, hope still balanced on her hip. You're here, that's strength. You're listening, that's strength. You're still breathing despite everything he did to break you. That's strength. Strength isn't being fearless. Strength is being terrified and fighting anyway. And you don't have to do it alone. She handed out cards for the foundation she'd started 3 months ago. The Hope Foundation for Women Breaking Free, free legal support, emergency housing, emergency, protection services, counseling, everything Anna wished she'd had. I didn't defeat Graham Blackwell alone, Anna continued. My father built a case for weeks. A doctor reported the poisoning. Ex-wives found courage to speak. A mistress chose solidarity over fear. A divorce lawyer fought for free. It took a village, but it started with me deciding I deserved to survive. And you do too, every single one of you. After the talk, women lined up to thank her. Some cried, some shared their stories. Some just needed to touch hope, to see proof that survival was possible, that joy existed on the other side of fear. Jennifer, Melissa, and Victoria helped at the shelter now. 3 women bound by shared trauma, now channeling that pain into purpose. Jennifer ran the legal clinic. Melissa coordinated safe housing. Victoria managed social media outreach. They'd become Anna's family in a way blood couldn't match. On Saturday, they all gathered at the park. Charles pushed Hope in a swing while Anna watched. Sarah and her partner threw a frisbee with their dog. Jennifer and Melissa's children played on the jungle gym. Victoria sat on a bench, her 6-month-old son sleeping in her arms. People ask if I forgive him, Anna said to no one in particular. The others gathered close to listen. I don't. Forgiveness isn't required for healing. What I did was accept that he was sick. I was his target, and none of it was my fault. Do you think about him? Melissa asked. Sometimes, when I see news about prison reform, or when Hope does something he'll never see. But mostly, Anna looked at her daughter, squealing with delight as Charles pushed her higher. Mostly I'm too busy living to think about him dying in a cell. Victoria shifted her son gently. I'm scared he'll get out someday. Me too, Anna admitted, but I'll be ready. I'm not the same woman he kicked in that bank. I'm stronger, smarter, surrounded by people who love me. And I know exactly what he is. He can't manipulate me anymore. They sat in comfortable silence, watching children play, feeling autumn sun on their faces. Ordinary moments that felt extraordinary because they had fought so hard to reach them. Anna's phone buzzed. A text from a law firm. We'd like to interview you for our domestic violence victims advocacy position. When you graduate, we want you on our team. Anna smiled. 1 year ago, she had nothing. No job, no home, no future beyond fear. Now she had everything that mattered. A daughter, a purpose, a family built from survival, a career path that would let her save others. What are you thinking? Charles asked, settling on the bench beside her. That we won, not just in court, not just getting him locked up. We won because we're here, living, thriving, creating something good from something terrible. Charles squeezed her shoulder. Your mother would be so proud. I wish she could meet Hope. She knows her, sweetheart. Somewhere she knows. Hope toddled over on unsteady legs, falling into Anna's lap with a giggle. Anna caught her, buried her face in her daughter's soft hair, breathed in that perfect baby smell. This, this was what Graham tried to steal. This simple joy of holding your child. This freedom to laugh in a park. This community of people who chose love over fear. He'd failed, and Anna had won everything that mattered. 2 years after Graham's arrest, Anna stood at a podium in the University of Denver's law school auditorium. She wore her graduation gown, a law degree earned at age 30, top of her class. Hope sat in the front row with Charles, wearing a tiny dress and clapping enthusiastically without understanding why. The dean had asked Anna to give the commencement speech. She'd debated accepting. Public speaking still made her nervous. But she'd learned that courage meant doing things despite fear. 2 years ago, Anna began, her voice steady and clear, I couldn't imagine standing here. I was in an abusive marriage, pregnant and terrified, believing I had no options and no future. My abuser had convinced me I was nothing without him, that I was too weak, too damaged, too broken to survive alone. 200 law students and their families listened intently. He was wrong, but more importantly, I was wrong. I wasn't weak, I was gathering strength. I wasn't broken, I was breaking free. I wasn't nothing, I was becoming someone who would help thousands of others do the same. Anna saw women in the audience wiping tears, saw young law students sitting straight at her, saw recognition in eyes that had seen too much pain. Some of you will go on to work in corporate law, some in criminal prosecution, some in family court. Whatever path you choose, remember this. The law is only as good as the people who wield it. Use your power to protect the vulnerable. Question systems that fail victims. Never ever accept that's just how it's done when you know it's wrong. She paused, finding Hope's face in the crowd. Her daughter waved enthusiastically. A wise person once told me, you are not a victim of your story. You are the author. Every one of you in this room is writing your own story. Make it one that matters. Make it one that helps. Make it one you're proud to tell. The applause was thunderous. Minus. After the ceremony, Anna walked across campus with Sarah, both in graduation gowns. Sarah had completed her advanced certification in family law. Remember when we met here? Sarah asked. Freshman year, both of us determined to change the world? Then I let Graham convince me to quit. Told myself I'd finish later. Later never came until I made it come. And now you're joining the best domestic violence advocacy firm in the state. Anna smiled. Now we're both changing the world. Just took a slight detour. Her phone buzzed. A message from the Hope Foundation's coordinator. 300 women housed this year, 85 successful custody cases, 12 abusers convicted. You're changing lives. 300 women, 300 stories that might have ended like hers almost did. 300 futures saved. That night, Anna put Hope to bed in their small apartment. The toddler fought to sleep, chattering about Guampa and park and cookies. Time for sleep, baby girl. Story? Anna pulled out their favorite book, but Hope shook her head. Mama story. Anna smiled. Hope loved hearing about the princess who fought the dragon. Anna's heavily edited, age-appropriate version of their story. Once upon a time, there was a princess who was very scared. A dragon trapped her in a tall tower and told her she could never leave. Princess scared? Very scared. But the princess had something the dragon didn't know about. She had people who loved her. Her daddy, her friends, and other princesses who'd escaped from dragons before. They help? They helped, but here's the secret, baby. The princess had to decide to fight. All the help in the world doesn't work until you decide you're worth saving. So the princess decided. She fought the dragon, and she won. Dragon go away? Far away. He can't hurt the princess anymore. And now the princess helps other princesses escape from their dragons. Mama princess? Anna kissed her daughter's forehead. Mama was the princess. You're my happy ending. And now we help other people find theirs. Hope's eyes drifted closed, secure in the knowledge that dragons could be defeated and princesses could win. Anna sat in the quiet apartment, watching her daughter sleep, feeling the weight of 2 years of healing and growth and transformation. She thought about Graham occasionally, wondered if he understood what he'd lost, wondered if he felt any remorse in his cell, wondered if he thought about the daughter he'd never meet, the woman he'd tried to destroy, the empire he'd built and demolished through his own cruelty. But those thoughts came less frequently now. Graham Blackwell was becoming what he deserved to be. Bishaham, a cautionary tale, a closed chapter, a person who'd briefly darkened her life but no longer controlled it. Anna was too busy living to dwell in the past. 5 years after the press conference that changed everything, Anna sat in Judge Margaret Cooper's chambers. But this time, she wasn't a victim seeking protection. She was an attorney advocating for one. The young woman across the desk, barely 23, bore bruises that makeup couldn't hide. She clutched her 4-month-old baby and trembled with the fear Anna recognized intimately. "He said if I try to leave, he'll take my baby," the woman whispered. "He has money, lawyers, connections. I'm nobody." Anna leaned forward, meeting her eyes. "That's what my abuser said too. And for a long time, I believed him. But here's the truth. You're not nobody. You're a mother protecting her child, and I'm going to help you." Judge Cooper reviewed the restraining order application. "The evidence is strong, Ms. Mitchell. We'll grant the emergency protective order." After the young mother left, Judge Cooper gestured for Anna to stay. "You've helped 17 women this month alone," the judge said. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't fought back?" Anna considered. "Every day, but I also think about what happened because I did. The Hope Foundation has helped over 2,000 women in 5 years, 17,000 calls to the domestic violence hotline the day after our press conference. Stronger laws passed in 4 states. Cultural shifts in how we talk about abuse. And Graham Blackwell?" Anna smiled slightly. "Still in prison, 13 more years. I don't think about him much anymore. He's irrelevant to my life except as the reason I understand what these women are going through." Have you ever wanted revenge beyond the legal consequences? I got my revenge. I'm happy. I'm free. I'm doing work that matters. He's in a cell. The best revenge is a life well lived, and mine is extraordinary. That evening, Anna attended Hope's kindergarten graduation. Her daughter, now 5.5, wore a tiny cap and gown, beaming with pride. Charles sat beside Anna, his hair more silver now, but his pride unchanged. "She looks like her grandmother. Same determination. She has your stubbornness too." "She'll need it. World's not easy for strong women." "No," Anna agreed, "but we're raising her to be ready." After the ceremony, Hope ran to Anna with a drawing. "I made this in art." The picture showed 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands. Above them the words, "My hero mama," in wobbly kindergarten handwriting. Anna's throat tightened. "It's beautiful, baby. Teacher said we draw our hero. You, my hero." Anna knelt down eye level with her daughter. "You want to know a secret? You're my hero too. You made me brave." Hope didn't fully understand, but she hugged her mother with the fierce devotion of a child who feels profoundly loved. Later at the park, their extended chosen family gathered. Jennifer and Melissa had become Anna's closest friends, their bond forged in shared survival. Victoria stopped by with her son, now 5, who played happily with Hope. Sarah announced she was running for family court judge, inspired by Judge Cooper's example. Charles revealed he'd started teaching self-defense classes specifically for domestic violence survivors. As the sun set over Denver, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Anna felt a profound sense of completion. Her phone buzzed. A message from a reporter. "Would you comment on Graham Blackwell's parole hearing next month?" Anna deleted it without responding. Graham was seeking early release after serving only 5 years. His lawyers claimed rehabilitation and good behavior. The parole board would likely deny him. His crimes were too severe, his pattern too clear. But even if they didn't, Anna felt no fear. She'd built a life he couldn't touch, created a legacy that would outlast his destruction, raised a daughter who would never know his shadow. "What are you thinking?" Charles asked, appearing beside her. "That we won, completely. He tried to erase me, and instead I became someone who helps erase abusers from other women's lives." Your mother would burst with pride. Anna watched Hope playing, her laughter carrying across the playground. "I hope she can see this, see what her granddaughter is becoming, see that even after everything terrible that happened, something beautiful emerged." She sees it, sweetheart. I'm sure of it. As darkness fell, the family walked home together, Hope riding on Charles's shoulders, chattering about her day. Anna walking beside them, feeling the weight of 5 years of healing, growth, and transformation. That night, after Hope fell asleep, Anna sat at her desk and began writing. Not legal briefs this time, but something different. A memoir, a guide, a message to every woman who had felt as trapped as she once had. The dedication page read simply, "For Hope, who gave me reason to survive. For the women who helped me fight. For everyone still trapped who needs to know you can escape, you can heal, you can win. You are the author of your story. Make it extraordinary." Anna wrote until midnight, words flowing from a well of experience, both terrible and transformative. She wrote about the bank, the poisoning, the court battles, the press conference. But more importantly, she wrote about the after, about rebuilding, about finding joy after trauma, about becoming someone who helps rather than someone who hurts. When she finally closed her laptop, Anna walked to Hope's room and stood in the doorway, watching her daughter sleep. Graham Blackwell had tried to break them both. Instead, he'd created two survivors, a mother who understood strength through adversity, a daughter who would grow up knowing women could fight dragons and win. The story that began with violence in a bank lobby had transformed into something unexpected. Hope. Not just hope for survival, but hope for transformation. Hope that pain could become purpose. Hope that victims could become advocates. Hope that one person's courage could inspire thousands. Anna returned to her bedroom, looked at her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back bore little resemblance to the broken person from 5 years ago. This woman stood tall, met her own eyes without flinching, smiled with genuine joy. "We did it," Anna whispered to that reflection. "We survived. We thrived. We won." Outside, Denver slept under stars. Somewhere in a prison cell, Graham Blackwell faced 13 more years of consequences. But Anna didn't spare him another thought. She was too busy planning tomorrow. A case to argue, a daughter to raise, a foundation to run, a world to change, one survivor at a time. The revenge Charles Mitchell had started became something bigger than any of them imagined. Not just justice for one woman, but a movement. Not just punishment for one abuser, but prevention for thousands more. And at the center of it all stood Anna Mitchell. No longer a victim, no longer defined by what had been done to her, but by what she chose to do with her survival. She was the author of her own story now, and the story she was writing changed the world. 10 years after the press conference, Anna received an invitation to speak at the National Domestic Violence Conference. The keynote address, 15,000 attendees. Her face would appear on screens in convention halls across the country via live stream. Hope, now 13, helped her mother choose the right outfit. "The blue one," Hope said decisively. "It makes you look powerful." Anna smiled at her daughter, tall for her age, confident, outspoken, everything Anna had hoped to raise. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned it from my hero." At the conference, Anna stood before a sea of faces, survivors, advocates, law enforcement, medical professionals, legislators, people who dedicated their lives to ending violence. "My name is Anna Mitchell," she began. 15 years ago, I was kicked by my abusive husband in a public bank while 9 months pregnant. The video went viral, but what happened after that video is why I'm here today." She told the full story, not just her victory, but the system's failures that nearly let Graham win. The restraining order denied. The court that questioned her reality. The institutional barriers that protected abusers. "We've made progress," Anna said. "In the decades since my case, 42 states have strengthened domestic violence protections. Hundreds of thousands of women have escaped abuse. Cultural awareness has shifted dramatically. But we're not done. Not while one woman lives in fear. Not while one child witnesses violence. Not while one abuser walks free." The audience rose in standing ovation, but Anna wasn't finished. "I want to introduce you to someone." She gestured to the side of the stage. "This is my daughter, Hope." Hope walked out, 13 years old, poised and confident. She approached the microphone without hesitation. "I never met my father," Hope said clearly. "He's in prison for what he did to my mother and other women. And I'm glad, Because it meant I grew up with the best role model possible, a woman who survived, who fought, who rebuilt her life from nothing and created something that helps thousands. That's the parent I needed. That's the legacy that matters. Mother and daughter stood together on that stage, two generations united by survival and purpose. In the audience, Jennifer, Melissa, Victoria, Sarah, and Charles watched with tears streaming down their faces. The Hope Foundation's banner hung behind them. From victims to authors, write your own story. After the conference, as they walked through the convention center, a young woman approached Anna hesitantly. "Mrs. Mitchell? I saw your press conference video 5 years ago. I was in an abusive marriage, pregnant, terrified. I watched you stand up to your abuser and I thought, if she can do it, maybe I can too. I left that night. My daughter is 4 now. We're safe. I'm finishing nursing school. I just wanted to thank you. You saved our lives." Anna embraced the stranger, feeling the weight of countless stories like this. 17,000 calls the day after the press conference. Thousands more in the years since. A ripple effect of courage spreading outward, touching lives she'd never meet. "You saved yourself," Anna said. "I just showed you it was possible." As they left the convention center, Hope took her mother's hand. "Mom, do you think about him, my biological father?" Anna stopped, considering her answer carefully. Hope deserved honesty. "Sometimes. I think about what he tried to take from us. And then I look at you, strong, confident, kind, and I realize he failed completely. He tried to create fear. Instead, he created you. The world is better because you're in it. Do you hate him? No, I pity him. He'll spend his life in a cage while we live freely. He'll die having destroyed everything while we build and create and help." His story ended the moment he chose violence. Ours is still being written. Good," Hope said firmly, "because I don't want to waste time on someone irrelevant." Anna laughed. Her daughter had inherited more than her grandmother's determination. She'd inherited her mother's hard-won wisdom, too. That night in their Denver home, larger now, comfortable, filled with photos and memories and joy, Anna sat at her desk for the last time to finish her memoir. The final paragraph wrote itself. "Graham Blackwell kicked me in a public bank 15 years ago, trying to break me. Instead, he shattered the silence around domestic violence. My father started a revenge that became a revolution. Together, we showed the world that victims can become survivors. Survivors can become advocates, and advocates can change everything. To everyone reading this who feels trapped, you are not a victim of your story. You are the author. Pick up your pen, start writing, make it extraordinary. We're here to help you, and we're not going anywhere." Anna saved the document and sent it to her publisher, closed her laptop. In the living room, Hope practiced piano while Charles read the newspaper. The sounds of ordinary domestic peace filled the house. This was the revenge Charles Mitchell had orchestrated. Not violence, not hatred, not destruction, but life, joy, purpose. A granddaughter who would never know fear. A daughter who transformed trauma into triumph. A legacy that would outlive them all. Outside, Denver slept under stars. In a prison 600 miles away, Graham Blackwell stared at cement walls, his empire reduced to an 8 by 10 cell. But Anna didn't think about him anymore. She was too busy living her extraordinary story.